Hi, it's Toy. Welcome back to Educator.com's jQuery and Ajax course. Today we're going to be talking about attributes. Attributes. What are attributes? Attributes are, well, it's better to show you an example. So for example, if I were to have a link here, build a link out, ahref equals some link.com, ID equals link ID, class equals link class, title equals link title, etc., etc. And this is the link. Close out the tag. Any of these items, any of this descriptor items that have a quote associated with, so any key name that has an associated value, anything in the quotes, is an attribute. So href is an attribute, ID is an attribute, class is an attribute, title is an attribute. So if I wanted to talk about the attribute, the href attribute of this link that would give me blah 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 blah.com. If I want to talk about the title attribute of this link, it would give me link title. Now, the great thing about jQuery, now these are standard attributes. You see them all the time in HTML all day long. The great thing about HTML and jQuery is that you can make up attributes whatever you want. If HTML doesn't recognize it as one of its default standard kind of attributes, it just ignores it. But in jQuery, you can access information that you would not necessarily get in a typical standard HTML attribute. Okay? So, for example, I could add an attribute to this link I just have, and I'm not going to write all the other standard ones out, but I could say user ID equals 121, and that would be toy. And then on my next line I could say ahref equals some other link, user ID equals 122, and that would be Jeff. And I could just have a giant list of links with different user ID attributes, but it's specific to that link, so that we can access this data that you don't normally kind of get with your standard HTML stuff. This really, really powerful tool that you use in jQuery is you're just especially starting to build complex pages with tons of data on it and things that you kind of need to pull in order to kind of complete your back-end queries to come back with more information for that person. So jQuery has a method called .attr and its brother/sister method called removeAttr. If, for example, you wanted to add an attribute to any element on the page, you just call .attr, and if it's already there, then it changes it for you. If it's not there, it'll add it for you and add a value to it. Similarly, remove does exactly what it says. It takes the attribute off. So sometimes you don't necessarily always want it, and that could be for security reasons, or it could be just because it's not necessary anymore, or because removing the attribute causes some other behavior to happen on the screen somewhere else. So instead of talking about it, let's try it. And I'm going to do something different a little today. We're going to go with, in the last lesson I set up a real world example for you, and I'm going to repeat that real world example because it has all this attribute stuff in it, and it'll be a good refresher course for you. Similarly to the last lesson, I pre-built some of this stuff for you. Again, I put a play area here, this play area here, full of elements that we could play with, And then on the left side and on the right side, we have a play area here not a play area, but a controlling area that controls the left side. But we won't need any of that when I build this real-world application here. Let's see what this play area looks like right now. Looks like this. Okay. This, by the way, is a table, a small table, a table with a label and a checkbox. So let's check this out. Here it is, a table with 4 rows. Each row has 2 columns. The first column is just a label, and the second column is the checkbox for that label. Now you'll see that each of these rows has an attribute called CBID. Now, HTML has no idea what that means. It's just going to ignore it. But we can use it to our advantage. First off, just to make sure that we're working with a table here, and we're gonna. What I'd like to do is to make it easier to read, like as with any table, especially if you have a table, long table of lots of data, and goes down, extends past down the page. You've got a pagination going on. You've got 1,000 items in your table. You want to break it up into 10 pages of 100 each. This will make it easier to read. We're going to add a class, and let's add a white background to the table row, but we only want it for every other row, so it makes it easier to see. I don't have a white BG class yet, so let's give it a white background and have a class like this, and that should do it. Bam, there you go. So every odd row, and in this case even, because again JavaScript is a zero-based language, so row 1 is actually the second row. Row 3 is actually the fourth row, so it's giving you the white background. All right. So now what we're going to do is we're going to assume that this, we're going to imagine that this table is actually really long book names, really long descriptions. The price is over here, and way at the butt end is a checkbox to say I want to buy it. Well, I don't necessarily have to want to scroll all the way over there and whatever to get to that checkbox. I'm going to make it easy for the user. I'm just going to say, okay, well, anywhere that user clicks on that row, it's going to check that checkbox for me. So let's build that. So we're going to start off with saying anywhere in that row that user clicks, if I can get my spelling together here, crazy typos, anywhere along that row where that user clicks, first of all, kick me back the ID of that row. So var ID is equal to one of my favorite selectors of this. And I'm not going to go over these selectors because it was in the last lesson. If you feel a little shaky on your selectors, go back and review that kind of material and experiment. So simple stuff. But I'm assuming at this point that you have a lot of this stuff under your belt. So take this table row and kick me back the CBID attribute. All right? So if I hit anywhere in this row, kick me back the CBID attribute. Okay? And this, if I were to click on that second row, it would kick me back 2. All right? Now, if you see, these unique IDs also correspond to this checkbox IDs. All right? So what we're going to do on this now is say, all right, now I know which row I'm on. Now let's go find the checkbox that has the same ID. And there is a checked attribute, which is a standard HTML, and they all know it. Anywhere I hit along that row, hit that checkbox, find that checkbox, and check it off as true. So let's try it. All right, bam, 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 awesome. I didn't touch any of the. As you notice, I didn't touch any of the checkboxes. I just touched the label, and it hit me back with some great behavior. All right. So let's start adding attributes. In this particular case, let's do this. Let's do, when I click on this link, let's add let's go to div 1. And I know it's div 1 because I wrote it. Okay, so that div only has one attribute called class, so we can pinpoint it. Let's give it an attribute. Let's say, I don't know, let's give it an attribute of Snugglepuss. And let's call that, let's give that Snugglepuss attribute a value of an ear. Totally making this up on the fly, obviously. I don't know where that word came from. All right, so let's try it. All right, so let's add the attribute. Of course, we don't actually see anything happen, but if we were to inspect the element, I don't know if you guys use Firebug, but this is a great little thing. Inspect this element. Look at this. The attribute's there. Pretty awesome, huh? Okay, so similarly, we can remove the attribute, that very same attribute, or we can remove a different attribute. Let's see, when I click on this, we can remove that Snugglepuss attribute. Remove Snugglepuss. And let's try it. Is it reloading? Okay. Let's do this. Let's make sure that it's not there to begin with. Okay. So, let's add the attribute. Bam. It's there. Let's remove the attribute. Gone. Totally works. Other attributes. Now we're going to go into some specific attributes like class, and class, as you know, is an attribute because it's a key name with a value, but it's a very specialized attribute because it's really kind of important. So we can do this. Let's get a little more interesting with our jQuery now. That is called, what are we going to do? We're going to check if it has a class first. So there's a method called hasClass. We're going to check if it has a class first. My finger was on the wrong button. We're going to see if it has a class. Let's just check first, okay? Check if .div1 has class. All right. Let's get rid of that. We don't need to see that anymore. False. It has no class. Is that true? Actually, I guess I should have gotten rid of my firebug. That is actually true. It is correct, I mean. Because I did not specify the name of the class. All right? So let's try this. Let's try, does it have the class of Snugglepuss? All right. So, has class. False. And that is completely true, because down here, as you see, there is no Snugglepuss class. Let's add that attribute, so now it has Snugglepuss, and let's check if it has a class. False. Oh. That's because Snugglepuss is not a class. Snugglepuss is an attribute. So let's go back and fix our code here. We know that it has a class of div1. All right, so let's do this. Div1. All right, now let's see if it has a class. True, it has a class of div1. So now when we know that that's working, we can build upon that. We can also do things like add classes. As you saw earlier, one of my favorite things I've been doing with that big orange border, if you saw my earlier lessons, we've been adding big orange borders around. What's that button called? It's called ID class. It's pretty logical. Let's add, let's find a different div to pick on. We're gonna add class orange border. And while we're there, we might as well go ahead and build out the thing that says remove class. I think that's what the link name is called. Remove class. And instead of add, it'll be remove. Somehow my browser got misplaced. Okay, so here we go. Let's reload this. Add class, orange border, hi. Remove class, awesome. Even better yet, I'd like to just hit it I just like to have one button that does it, and guess what? We got one called toggle. So, let's see what this is called. that's how that happened. Toggle class A. Let's load this up. Okay. Add class, remove class, add class, toggle, 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 toggle. Totally works. Gotta love it. All right, so even add class, remove class, even better, toggle class. Love that one. Now we're coming up to some serious workhorses of jQuery. As you know, in a lot of these elements, HTML, typical HTML will have values on it, like this. Or an input box will have a value. Someone types something in there. Whatever they've typed in there, that's the value. So lots of times you want to be able to find out what that person's typed or find out what they've checked on. And let's do this. So what is our goal here? Want to try to get the value of checkbox 4. So let's do this. Running out of space here. Okay. $J. Let's get the value of checkbox 4. So alert. And I know checkbox 4 is called #CB4, and get the value of it. All right, let's load that up. Bam. Let's change the value. You can actually change the value of a text box. So if I were to show you this here, let's see, let's go here. And inspect this element. Okay, so you'll see this checkbox. It has a value of 4. We can change that using the value command again. The value command by itself just returns you the value, the current value. You can set the value. Let's do this. What's that link called? Change val A. You can set the value of it, and let's call it snug. Snug. So, get the value of checkbox 4. 4, awesome. Change the value of checkbox 4. And that didn't do it. Why is that? Oh, that's why. Okay, I gotta actually first do it. And then I can alert that. Let's do that. CV4. Okay, let's do this. Okay, get the value of checkbox 4. It's back to its default. You see it here. Change the value of checkbox 4. There you go. Value equals snug. Get the value of checkbox 4. Snug. Awesome. You can do some crazy dynamic stuff with people. You can mess with people's minds basically if you do that. All right? Now, there's a difference between that and getting the text. Okay? This is text right here. This is the value. That checkbox is a value. So, let's change the text of div 4. Right now, div 4 is just some gunk, some bolded gunk. Let's see what it exactly says. It says B div4 unb. Okay. So let's get the text of that. What is that? That's the, when I click on this button, let's change the text of that button. And I'm going to change that div. And I'm going to change it with div4 like this. I'm going to change it with some crazy stuff like hello span. I'm going to do some inline CSSing on purpose so you can see what's going on here. Span color style equals color purple. World unspan. All right, let's load that up. So bold div4 goes to nothing, baby. Why is that? Class div4, text A. Dot text A. Click. Dot text. Did I miss something up here? I'll show you a great thing about Firebug. If I click on here, there's a console here. Just gotta reload this. Tell you some of your JavaScript errors that are going on here. Oh, there it goes. Just looks like JavaScript wasn't quite enabled. Somehow my stuff moved again. Okay, so it just changed the text. Well, that's kind of ugly. I was really expecting a hello and then a purple world, not hello span style blah 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 world. That's what the HTML command is for. So let's do this. Let's copy this. When we hit that button, HTMLA, which is this button here, we're going to change div3. And we're not going to use text this time. We're going to use HTML this time. And load that up. I'm going to change this so it makes more sense. So change text of div, which is really ugly, or we could change the HTML of div. Oh, and look how pretty that is. It gives me the hello with the purple world. All right. So once again, just a quick review. We played with attributes. There's specific attributes that are HTML standard ones, and then there are whatever attributes you want to add to it. You can remove them, you can add them. Important ones are the values, because that is HTML standard stuff, and You can change your text, you can change your HTML, you can change a lot of things so that you can start kind of giving this instant feedback back to your user. Depending on where you check and what kind of behaviors you want from the elements that you place on your page. We're starting to get to the point where your selectors and your attributes combined with your CSS, you can do some really powerful stuff here just in terms of instant feedback, kind of dynamic behaviors and information exchange between the user and your servers. All right, thanks again for watching. We're going to hit you up again if you want to keep going. There's another lesson. My name's Toy. Have a great day.